Welcome to Dreamy Old Stories. Here we tell slow and gentle tales from history. Stories that calm your mind and help you fall asleep. If you enjoy the journey, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin tonight's dreamy story. Tonight, we drift gently into a quiet corner of history. A place where the day does not end with noise or haste, but with shadows slowly stretching across narrow streets. Imagine the sun lowering itself behind distant hills, its final light resting briefly on stone walls and wooden roofs before fading away. This is a medieval town at dusk, not in a moment of drama, but in a moment of routine, a familiar moment, a daily ending that everyone knows by heart. As daylight softens, the town begins to change its rhythm. The marketplace, once filled with voices and movement, grows calm. Merchants close their stalls with unhurried hands. Wooden shutters are pulled inward. Cloth awnings are folded and tied. Nothing is rushed, because there is nowhere urgent to go. Night will arrive whether anyone is ready or not. In these towns, sunset is not just a time of day, it is a signal. It tells people when to slow their steps, when to finish work, and when to return home. There are no glowing street lamps, no bright windows stretching into the dark. Instead, there is an understanding shared by everyone. Darkness belongs to the night, and the night is meant to be quiet. Homes sit close together, their walls built of stone, timber, or packed earth. Inside, families prepare for evening in small, careful ways. A hearth is stirred back to life with a few pieces of wood. A candle is trimmed so it will burn evenly. These simple actions matter because light is precious. Wax is expensive. Tallow smells unpleasant. Oil must be saved. No flame is wasted without thought. As the sky deepens from blue to grey, church bells often mark the transition. Their sound travels slowly over rooftops and through alleyways, reminding everyone that the day's labour is done. For many, this bell is the last public sound they will hear before morning. After it fades, the town begins to withdraw into itself. People move indoors not because they fear the night, but because life after sunset is limited. Roads become difficult to see. Puddles hide in the dark. Animals wander more freely. A twisted ankle or a fall could mean weeks of pain, so doors close gently, one by one, and wooden beams slide into place. Inside these homes, evening life is modest and close. Families gather near the hearth, sitting on stools or benches worn smooth by years of use. Meals are simple. Thick bread, perhaps some stew kept warm from earlier, maybe a small amount of cheese. Eating happens slowly. There is no rush. The day has already taken what energy it will. Conversation is quiet and familiar. People speak about small things. A neighbor's illness, tomorrow's weather, a tool that needs fixing. Stories are repeated because repetition is comforting. In a world where little changes quickly, familiar words help mark the passing of time. Children grow sleepy early. Without bright light, their eyes tire. They lean against parents or siblings, listening without fully understanding. Soon, they are guided toward shared sleeping spaces. Beds are not private or soft. Straw mattresses rest on wooden frames. Blankets are heavy and often shared. Warmth matters more than comfort. Outside, the streets are mostly empty now. Only an occasional figure passes by. A town watchman, perhaps, carrying a lantern that casts a small, moving circle of light. His footsteps echo softly. He is not there to enforce strict order, but to remind people that someone is awake, that the town is not entirely asleep. The smells of evening settle in. Smoke from hearths lingers in the air. Damp stone releases the day's stored warmth. Somewhere, a dog curls up near a doorway. Somewhere else, a cat moves silently across a roof, unseen and unconcerned. Life after sunset is not exciting, and that is exactly the point. The night is a time to preserve energy, to stay safe, to remain close. People do not expect entertainment or stimulation. They expect rest. They expect darkness. They expect tomorrow as we rest here at the edge of night in a medieval town. We begin to sense how deeply the absence of light shaped human behavior. We will move softly into the streets themselves to see how rules, fears, and quiet habits governed what little movement remained after dark. The night settles fully now, and with it comes a deeper stillness. Inside the town walls, darkness is not complete, but it is thick and uneven. It gathers in corners, along narrow alleys, and beneath overhanging upper floors where buildings lean toward each other as if sharing a secret. The little light that exists moves slowly, carried by candles behind windows or lanterns held close to the body. In many homes, the evening continues quietly for a short while longer. Hands stay busy with small tasks that do not require much light. A piece of cloth is mended by touch as much as by sight. A wooden spoon is smoothed with a knife. These are tasks learned through repetition, done so many times that they no longer demand full attention. The mind drifts as the hands work. Silence is common, but it is not uncomfortable. People are used to sitting together without speaking. The crackle of the fire fills the space where words might otherwise go. Every sound feels louder at night. A cough, the shifting of a bench, the soft sigh of someone settling in to rest. Windows are small and set deep into walls. They are often covered with cloth or wooden shutters to keep out the cold. From the outside, they glow faintly, like distant stars. From the inside, they remind everyone that the world beyond the walls has disappeared for a while. In wealthier homes, evenings may last a little longer. Better candles burn cleaner and brighter. There may be a book, read aloud slowly, letter by letter, because few can read silently with ease. Listening becomes a shared experience. Words are not skimmed or rushed. They are received patiently, as if each sentence deserves its moment. Still, even here, night has authority. Eyes strain. Smoke irritates. The cost of light presses gently on the mind. Eventually, someone suggests sleep, and no one argues. The suggestion feels natural, almost inevitable. Elsewhere in the town, certain places remain awake just a bit longer. A tavern near the market square may keep its door open until the last customers leave. Inside, voices are low and tired rather than loud. Ale is sipped, not celebrated. The air smells of wood, spilled drink, and damp clothing drying near the fire. Laughter happens, but it fades quickly, as if everyone remembers they should not disturb the night. The innkeeper watches the door carefully. Trouble is more likely after dark, even if it rarely comes. Disputes feel heavier at night. Shadows make intentions unclear, so cups are cleared Benches are stacked, and the door is barred sooner rather than later. Outside, the town watch continues its slow rounds. The watchman's lantern swings gently, casting light that stretches and shrinks. With each step, he knows the streets well enough to walk them almost without looking. His job is less about action and more about presence. If someone calls out, he listens. If a door is left open, he knocks softly. Most people never see him. They hear him instead. The distant tap of boots, the faint clink of metal. These sounds reassure sleepers that order still exists, even in the dark. Animals adjust to the night in their own ways. Horses shift in stables. Chickens settle and grow quiet. Rats emerge cautiously, moving along familiar paths. The town belongs to them now for a few hours, until morning light sends them back into hiding. As sleep spreads, the town becomes a collection of small, private worlds. Each household rests in its own rhythm. Some people fall asleep quickly, worn out by labor. Others lie awake longer, listening. The absence of noise makes thoughts louder. Worries about crops, money, or illness drift through the mind, then slowly fade. The night is not seen as wasted time. It is necessary. It is understood that bodies need darkness, just as fields need winter. Rest is not indulgence. It is survival, and so, beneath the stars and clouds they cannot see, the medieval town sleeps. Its streets are still. Its people dream lightly or not at all. In the quiet that remains, we begin to sense how deeply the night shaped rules, habits, and expectations. We will drift further into those unspoken rules and explore how fear, custom, and caution quietly govern behavior after sunset. As the deepest hours of night pass, the town rests in a kind of shared stillness. Time moves differently now, without clocks to mark the hours. People sense the night by sound and feeling. A fire burns lower. Breathing becomes slow and even. Outside, the air cools, and moisture settles gently on stone and wood. Sleep in a medieval town is rarely uninterrupted. People wake briefly, shift positions, pull a blanket closer. These small awakenings are ordinary and unremarkable. Darkness is familiar, not frightening. When someone wakes, they listen for a moment, confirm that all is well, and drift back into rest. Some remain awake longer than others. An older person may sit quietly by the hearth, watching embers glow. A mother may rise to check on a child. A traveler, unused to the sounds of the town, may lie alert, hearing every creak and distant movement. These moments are private and inward, shared with no one. The town itself breathes softly. Wood contracts as it cools, making small sounds. A shutter shifts in the wind. Somewhere beyond the walls, an owl calls, its voice steady and unhurried. These sounds do not interrupt sleep. They belong to the night, and everyone accepts them. Rules after sunset are rarely written, but they are widely known. People do not wander without reason. Doors stay closed. Voices remain low. These customs are followed not out of strict obedience, but because experience has taught their value. The dark hides hazards. A wrong step, a misunderstanding, a startled animal. Avoidance is easier than repair. Even those who must move at night do so carefully. A midwife called to assist a birth walks with purpose, lantern held close. A messenger Carrying news moves along familiar routes. They knock softly. They speak politely. Night demands restraint. In this world, privacy is different from what we know today. Walls are thin. Rooms are shared. Yet night offers a kind of privacy that daylight does not. Thoughts remain unspoken. Worries stay internal. The quiet creates space for reflection, even if no one names it as such as the hours continue. The town waits for the first signs of morning. No one rushes toward it. Dawn will come on its own time. Until then, rest is the only task. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the night begins to loosen its hold. The air changes. The sky lightens, though most sleepers do not notice. A rooster may call earlier than expected. A baker, rising before others, stirs quietly. These early movements do not break the night. They gently prepare its ending. Soon, the town will wake again. Fires will be rebuilt. Doors will open. Work will resume. But for now, this moment belongs to stillness. It belongs to the long habit of resting when light is gone. As we leave this first part behind, we carry with us the calm rhythm of medieval nights. We will return gently to explore the unspoken fears and careful rules that guided people when darkness fully surrounded them, shaping how they moved, spoke, and trusted the world after sunset. As we return gently to the medieval town, let us begin with a quiet reminder of where we last rested. Night had settled fully, and the town lay wrapped in stillness. People slept lightly, rules were followed without being spoken, and darkness was accepted as a natural boundary rather than an enemy. Now, with that calm still surrounding us, we move a little deeper into the meaning of night, not as a time of rest alone, but as a space shaped by careful behavior and quiet caution. After sunset, medieval life became smaller. Movements were reduced. Choices were limited. The world felt closer and narrower, as if the town itself had drawn inward. This was not caused by fear alone, but by understanding. Darkness removed certainty. Without light, even familiar places could change their character. Streets that felt ordinary during the day became uncertain paths at night. Uneven stones, shallow ditches, and forgotten debris were easy to overlook. A simple walk could end in injury. Because of this, people planned their days carefully to avoid unnecessary movement after sunset. What could be done before dark was done before dark. Night was not for errands. There was also the matter of recognition. In daylight, faces were known. At night, even a neighbor could become a stranger. This uncertainty shaped how people behaved. Greetings were cautious. Questions were asked politely. Trust was slower to form. These habits helped prevent misunderstandings that could easily grow worse in the dark. Town authorities understood this well. Curfews were common, though they varied by place and time. A bell or call would signal that it was time to be indoors. The message was simple: be home, be quiet, be safe. Punishments for breaking these rules were often mild, because most people followed them willingly. Fear did exist, but it was not dramatic. It was practical. People worried about thieves, fires, and accidents. Fire was perhaps the greatest concern. A single unattended flame could spread quickly through wooden buildings packed closely together. This is why hearths were carefully managed and candles extinguished before sleep. Darkness reduced risk as much as it increased it. Stories told during the day often carried warnings meant for the night. Tales of spirits, wandering figures, or unseen dangers were not meant to terrify, but to teach caution. They encouraged people to stay close to home and respect the boundaries set by darkness. In this way, storytelling supported social order. Inside homes, night also changed relationships. The quiet encouraged listening. Disagreements were postponed. Loud emotions felt out of place. Even children sensed this shift and adjusted their behavior. Voices softened. Movements slowed. The night asked for gentleness, and most people responded naturally. For those who worked unusual hours, such as bakers or guards, night demanded discipline. Their routines were steady and predictable. They moved the same way each night, following habits that reduced uncertainty. Familiarity replaced visibility. Beyond the walls, the countryside became something else entirely. Roads vanished into blackness. Forests absorbed sound. Most townspeople avoided travel at night unless absolutely necessary. Distance felt greater when unseen, and time felt longer. As we pause here, we can feel how night quietly shaped medieval life, not through fear or drama, but through habit and restraint. We will drift further into the social rules of the dark, exploring how trust, suspicion, and quiet cooperation help towns survive the long hours between sunset and dawn. As the night deepens once more, social life continues in subtle ways that rarely draw attention. After sunset, people rely less on sight and more on memory and expectation. Everyone knows where they belong and where others are likely to be. This shared understanding creates a quiet form of order, one that does not need constant enforcement. Trust after dark is careful and measured. Doors are closed, but not always locked. Many homes rely on familiarity rather than force. A knock at night is answered slowly. Voices are recognized before doors are opened. Names are spoken softly through wood and darkness. This exchange, brief and calm, confirms identity and intention. Neighbors depend on one another more at night than during the day. If something sounds wrong, a cry, a crash, an unfamiliar voice, people listen closely. They may not rush out immediately, but awareness spreads. The town functions like a sleeping body that can still respond if needed. This quiet cooperation is strongest in smaller towns, where everyone is known by routine rather than introduction. People recognize footsteps. They know which door belongs to which family. Night does not erase these patterns. It simply softens them. Suspicion exists, but it is not constant. Most trouble comes from outsiders rather than familiar faces. Travelers are expected to arrive before dusk. Those who do not are viewed with caution, not hostility. An inn may offer shelter, but questions are asked gently and thoroughly. Nighttime rules also apply to sound. Loud voices, singing, or unnecessary noise is discouraged, not by written law, but by shared expectation. Noise disturbs rest, and rest is valuable. Someone who breaks this expectation may be reminded the next day, quietly, without accusation. Religion shapes nighttime behavior as well. Many believe night to be a time when unseen forces are closer. This belief encourages prayer, reflection, and restraint. Even those who are not deeply religious follow customs shaped by these ideas. Candles may be placed near icons. Short prayers are whispered before sleep. These acts offer comfort more than protection. Public punishment rarely happens at night. Justice prefers daylight. Darkness blurs detail, and fairness requires clarity. If someone is accused of wrongdoing after sunset, the matter is often postponed until morning. This delay allows emotions to settle and facts to be gathered. The night watch continues its slow presence, not as an authority figure, but as a reassurance. The watchman does not seek trouble. He listens. He observes. His lantern marks movement rather than control. When he passes, people feel the town is still awake enough to protect itself. In taverns that remain open briefly, behavior is restrained. Drunkenness is discouraged. Excess draws attention, and attention at night is unwanted. The last drink is served early. The door is closed firmly. Silence returns. Within homes, conversations sometimes turn inward. Night encourages reflection. People think about their place in the town, their role, their responsibilities. These thoughts are not spoken aloud. They are part of the rhythm of rest as the hours pass. Social life fades almost completely. What remains is trust in routine. Everyone knows that morning will restore clarity. Until then, cooperation depends on shared habits, quiet recognition, and respect for darkness. Let us drift gently onward. We will explore how fear was managed rather than avoided, and how medieval towns balanced caution with calm during the longest and darkest hours of the night. As the night reaches its most settled hours, fear becomes something quiet and controlled, rather than loud or overwhelming. In medieval towns, fear is rarely spoken of directly. It lives beneath routine, woven into habits that have been practiced for generations. People do not name it often, but they understand it well. Darkness removes certainty. Uncertainty is what people value most. During the day, life is visible and predictable. At night, shapes lose their edges. Sounds travel farther. A harmless noise can feel unfamiliar. Because of this, people learn not to react quickly. Stillness becomes a form of safety. If a strange sound is heard, a person pauses before responding. They listen again. They wait. Many fears dissolve when given time. This patience is learned early in life. Children are taught not to cry out unless truly needed. Not because fear is shameful, but because calm keeps everyone safer. Stories play an important role here. Tales told by the fire often include warnings about wandering too far, speaking too loudly, or trusting too easily after dark. These stories are not meant to frighten, but to guide behavior. They teach restraint in a memorably way. Fear is shaped into caution, and caution becomes habit. The town itself offers comfort against fear. Walls surround it. Gates are closed. Knowing that entry points are controlled helps people rest. Even if the world beyond the walls feels uncertain, the town feels contained. This sense of enclosure matters deeply in the dark. Inside homes, people position themselves carefully. Sleeping places are arranged so children are close to adults. Tools or walking sticks may be kept within reach, not because danger is expected, but because readiness brings peace of mind. These small preparations allow the mind to settle. Nighttime prayers often reflect this balance between fear and calm. People do not ask for dramatic protection. They ask for a quiet night, for undisturbed rest, for safe return of light. The language is simple. The tone is gentle. Faith offers reassurance rather than excitement. Illness and sudden death are more frightening at night than during the day. Without light or help, people feel vulnerable. This is why communities respond quickly to nighttime calls. Fear is eased by knowing that others will listen, even if they do not immediately act. Over time, repeated nights teach the same lesson. Most nights pass without incident. Darkness becomes familiar. Fear loses its sharpness. What remains is respect, rather than dread. As the deepest part of the night slowly gives way to early morning, fear relaxes its hold. People sense the change even before light appears. The town has endured another night, just as it has many before. With this understanding of how fear was quietly managed, we prepare to move onward. Iway will begin to explore the earliest signs of night turning back into day, and how the slow return of light reshaped life, energy, and movement within medieval towns. We return once more to the medieval town, carrying with us the quiet understanding formed during the long night. Fear has softened into habit, and habit into routine. Now, as part 3 begins, we find ourselves in the final stretch of darkness, when night has not yet released its hold, but morning has begun to breathe quietly in the distance. In these hours before dawn, the town feels suspended. It is neither fully asleep nor truly awake. Most people remain in bed, wrapped in layered cloth and shared warmth. Breathing is slow. Dreams are shallow and easily broken. The night, having done its work, now lingers gently, as if reluctant to leave. Those who wake during this time do so without urgency. They do not reach for light. Instead, they listen. The silence feels different now. It is thinner, less complete. Somewhere, far away, a sound appears. Perhaps a bird testing the air. Perhaps the faint movement of someone rising early. These sounds do not alarm. They signal continuity. In medieval towns, early waking is common. Without artificial light to extend the evening, sleep often comes early, and rest is taken in shorter segments. People may sleep, wake, and sleep again. This pattern feels natural. The body follows light, not clocks. The first people to rise are usually those whose work depends on the morning. Bakers are among them. Bread takes time, and ovens must be prepared well before others are awake. A baker moves carefully through dark rooms, guided by memory. He knows where each tool rests. He opens the hearth, stirs old embers, and feeds them. Slowly, the glow returns, small but steady. This light is practical, not comforting. It is used sparingly. The baker's movements are quiet, respectful of the sleeping town. He understands that his work supports everyone else. Fresh bread will shape the day ahead, just as rest shaped the night before. Elsewhere, a town gatekeeper may wake. Gates remain closed until daylight strengthens, but checks are made. Locks are touched. Bars are tested. The gatekeeper listens. Beyond the walls, not expecting danger, but fulfilling routine. Routine offers reassurance. Inside homes, some people wake simply because their bodies tell them it is time. An older person may sit up slowly, joints stiff from rest. A woman may rise to tend the fire or prepare a simple morning task. These early movements are not signs of productivity. They are signs of rhythm. The town at this hour feels personal. During the day, it belongs to everyone. At night, it belongs to no one. But just before dawn, it belongs briefly to those who move softly within it. Their presence feels gentle, almost invisible. Light begins to return gradually. It does not arrive. All at once, the sky shifts from deep black to dark grey. Edges become visible again. Roof lines separate from the sky. The town seems to stretch, as if waking from sleep itself. With returning light comes a subtle change in emotion. Night concerns begin to fade. The careful restraint practiced after sunset loosens slightly. People know that visibility will return. With it comes safety, clarity, and shared activity. Still, no one rushes. Medieval mornings are not loud or sudden. There is no alarm, no bell demanding immediate action. Instead, sound grows slowly. A door opens. A pot is set down. Footsteps appear where there were none before. The town watch ends its final round. The lantern is extinguished. Darkness has served its purpose. Order has held as dawn approaches. The social rules that governed the night gently dissolve. Suspicion relaxes. Voices will soon rise. The town will open itself outward again. But this transition is slow, respectful of what came before. In this space between night and day, we can see how deeply darkness shaped medieval life, not as an interruption, but as a partner. Night taught restraint. Morning restores movement. We will pause here in this early light as the town prepares to fully wake. We will follow the morning further and observe how the return of daylight reshapes behavior, energy, and social order after a long, quiet night. As the light continues its slow return, the medieval town begins to adjust its posture. What was folded inward during the night now starts to unfold, carefully and without haste. Morning does not arrive as an event. It arrives as a gradual permission to move again. Inside homes, more people begin to wake. The process is unremarkable. Eyes open, bodies shift. Someone clears their throat. Another person reaches for clothing laid out the night before. There is no sharp division between sleeping and waking. One state simply drifts into the other. Clothing is layered and practical. People dress slowly, partly because light is still limited, and partly because there is no reason to rush. Shoes are stiff from use, belts are tightened, hair is covered or tied back. These small rituals prepare the body for the return of public life. Fires are encouraged rather than rebuilt. Embers saved through the night are coaxed into flame. This careful preservation of fire reflects a broader attitude toward resources. Nothing is wasted. Night has already reduced activity, conserving energy. Morning continues this pattern, extending it into work. Children wake gradually. Some are reluctant, still carrying fragments of dreams. Others rise easily, accustomed to early routines. There is little negotiation. Daylight brings responsibility. Even young children understand this rhythm, because they have never known another. As households stir, smells begin to change. The faint smoke of rekindled fires mixes with damp morning air. Bread from early ovens begins to travel through streets. These scents move ahead of sound, signaling that the town is returning to itself. Outside, Doors open slowly. Shutters are unfastened. Each opening adds a small amount of movement to the whole. No one looks surprised to see another person. Everyone expected this moment to come. The streets, which felt uncertain and narrow at night, regain their shape. Uneven stones become visible again. Corners lose their mystery. People walk with more confidence, not because danger has vanished, but because it can now be seen. Social behavior shifts with the light. Greetings return. Faces are recognized again without hesitation. Conversations resume where they left off the previous day. Night has not erased relationships. It has only paused them. Rules that govern darkness quietly retreat. There is less concern about noise. Tools strike wood. Animals are guided into streets or fields. Movement becomes acceptable again. The town does not abandon caution, but it no longer requires restraint. Markets begin their preparation long before trading starts. Stalls are inspected. Goods are uncovered. Weights are checked. This preparation mirrors the baker's early work. The day depends on those who rise before. Others, the gatekeeper now prepares for opening. Bars are removed. Locks are adjusted. The gate itself moves slowly, deliberately. Opening the town is an act that marks the end of night's authority. Beyond the walls, the wider world waits. With daylight comes a subtle emotional lift. Worries that felt heavier at night seem more manageable. Problems feel smaller when seen clearly. This shift does not eliminate hardship, but it changes how people carry it. Night, in medieval life, is not something to escape. It is something to pass through. Morning confirms that passage. Each dawn reinforces the trust that darkness can be. Endured as the town moves fully into day, we see how deeply night and morning depend on one another. One teaches restraint, the other restores expression. Together, they form a balanced rhythm. We will look more closely at how daylight reshapes labor, interaction, and the meaning of safety after a long night has finally released its grip. By the time daylight has fully settled over the town, night feels distant, though its influence remains quietly present. The transition is complete now. Shadows retreat into predictable places. Sounds become layered again. The town resumes its familiar shape, not as something new, but as something returned. Work begins in earnest. Craftspeople open workshops, lifting shutters that creak slightly in the cool air. Tools are laid out with care. The same hands that were still and folded during the night now move with practiced confidence. Daylight restores not only visibility, but permission to act, to speak, to interact openly. Labor feels safer in the light. Mistakes are easier to catch. Movements are clearer. People trust their footing again. This trust is important. It allows energy to flow outward rather than inward. During the night, energy was conserved. During the day, it is spent. Social life expands gently. Short exchanges happen in doorways. News is shared, often repetitive, but reassuring. Who slept poorly? Who rose early? Who plans to travel? These small pieces of information rebuild the social web that softened during darkness. Children move more freely now. They are given small tasks or allowed to wander within sight. The constraints of night are lifted. Their voices rise slightly, not in excitement, but in comfort. Daylight belongs to them as much as to anyone. The memory of night still shapes behavior. Fires are watched closely. Doors are checked even though they stand open. People remember what darkness can hide. This memory does not cause fear. It causes attentiveness. Night teaches lessons that daylight quietly reinforces. Public spaces. The authority of the night watch gives way to visible order. Officials, merchants, and elders take their places. Disputes that waited through the night are addressed now. Light allows fairness. Faces can be read. Intentions are clearer. Yet night is never dismissed as unimportant. It is spoken of with respect. A quiet night is considered a success. A troubled night is remembered and discussed. Night and day are not opponents. They are partners in survival. As the town settles fully into daytime rhythm, people rarely reflect consciously on the transition they have just made. It is too familiar to require thought. Darkness came. Darkness passed. This repetition builds confidence in continuity. Looking back over the night, from sunset to dawn, we can see how medieval life was shaped not by constant activity, but by balance. Rest and restraint made work and interaction possible. Silence prepared the ground for sound. In the next part, we will begin to explore how seasons, weather, and longer winter nights altered this balance, changing how medieval towns experienced darkness, rest, and safety across the year. As we begin, let us pause briefly and remember where we are. The town has fully awakened. Daylight has restored movement, sound, and confidence. Yet the memory of night remains quietly present, shaping habits without being noticed. Now we turn our attention to something that slowly but powerfully alters every evening and every night. The seasons in medieval towns. Night did not arrive the same way throughout the year. Sunset shifted gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, then more noticeably as weeks passed. People did not measure this change with calendars pinned to walls. They felt it in their bodies, in their routines, and in the length of time they could remain active before darkness returned. In summer, evening lingers. Light stretches gently into what would otherwise be night. Work continues longer. Streets stay active later. Children remain awake past their usual hour. The town feels generous with time. Darkness still comes, but it does so politely, without urgency. In winter, night behaves differently. It arrives early and stays long. The sun withdraws before many tasks are complete. Day feels short and fragile, as if it might vanish at any moment. People adjust, not by resisting this change, but by accepting it. Life bends toward the light. Rather than fighting the dark, winter evenings begin earlier, often before work feels finished. Tools are set down sooner. Markets close while the sky still holds some color. Fires are lit earlier, not for comfort alone, but for necessity. Cold and darkness arrive together, reinforcing one another. These longer nights reshape behavior deeply. Sleep increases. Activity contracts. The town spends more hours inward-facing. Homes become the center of life for longer stretches. Families gather earlier. Conversation extends simply because there is little else to do. Yet winter nights are not empty. They are dense. Time feels thicker. People measure it not by tasks, but by endurance. A long night is not something to fill. It is something to pass. Through patiently. Fuel becomes central to winter survival. Wood, peat, and charcoal are guarded carefully. Fires are smaller and more controlled. People sit close together to share warmth. The glow of the hearth becomes the primary source of light and heat for many hours. Candles are used sparingly. Light is reduced to the minimum needed for safety. Shadows dominate rooms. Faces are lit unevenly. The atmosphere becomes intimate and enclosed. In these conditions, voices lower naturally. The night presses closer. Winter also sharpens awareness of risk. Slippery streets, frozen ground. Illness worsened by cold and dark. After sunset, people are even less likely to leave home. Night travel becomes rare. Darkness combined with cold demands respect. Stories change during these seasons. Winter evenings encourage longer tales spoken slowly. Stories repeat year after year, comforting in their familiarity. They pass time without demanding energy. Memory becomes a form of warmth. The town outside grows quieter earlier. Snow absorbs sound. Cold stills movement. Even animals retreat. The night feels deeper, more complete. Yet it is not hostile. It is simply heavy. Despite this weight, winter nights also strengthen routine. People rely on structure to move through long darkness. Meals happen at regular times. Sleep follows. Predictable patterns. These habits create stability when daylight is scarce. As we rest here, in the middle of a seasonal shift, we begin to see that night in medieval towns was never a single experience. It changed with the year, stretching and shrinking, pressing closer or easing back. We will pause at this point, with winter beginning to assert itself. We will continue deeper into seasonal darkness, exploring how communities adapted emotionally and socially to long nights that seemed to leave little room for light. As winter settles more firmly over the town, the long nights begin to shape not only routine, but mood. Darkness is no longer a brief pause between days. It becomes a dominant presence, returning early and staying late. People learn to live within it rather than waiting for it to pass. During these months, evenings stretch slowly. After sunset, there are many hours before sleep feels complete. Time feels less divided. Without daylight to mark progress, moments blend together. This is not considered a problem. It is simply how winter behaves. Inside homes, life becomes quieter and more inward. People sit closer together, not only for warmth, but for reassurance. The presence of others matters more when the outside world feels distant and unreachable. Silence is shared rather than avoided. Conversation during winter nights tends to soften. There is less talk of plans and more talk of memory. People recall earlier winters, past hardships, and times when darkness lasted just as long and was survived just as quietly. These recollections are not dramatic. They are steady reminders that endurance is possible. Work does not disappear in winter evenings, but it changes form. Tasks become smaller and slower. Spinning, mending, sorting, repairing. Work that can be paused easily. Work that tolerates dim light. These activities fill time without demanding strain. Children spend more hours indoors. Their energy adjusts to the environment. Games become quieter. Play happens near adults, under watchful eyes. Even restlessness is contained by the limits of space and light. Illness feels closer during winter. Night, cold air, close quarters, and long darkness increase concern. People listen more carefully to breathing. A cough is noticed. A fever is watched. Night heightens awareness of vulnerability, especially when help feels far away. Because of this, communities lean more heavily on one another. Neighbors check in during the day. Firewood is shared. Food is stretched. These acts are rarely spoken of as kindness. They are understood as necessity. Survival depends on cooperation, especially when nights are long. Religious practice often becomes more visible during winter evenings. Candles are lit for prayer. Songs are sung quietly. These rituals provide structure and comfort. They also mark time, offering a rhythm when natural markers are few. Fear during winter nights is subtle but persistent. Not fear of specific threats, but fear of endurance. Will the cold last longer than expected? Will supplies be enough? Will everyone remain healthy? These concerns surface quietly in the dark, then settle again with routine. Sleep patterns adjust. People may sleep longer, wake later, or rest in segments. The body follows the season. There is no expectation of constant alertness. Fatigue is accepted as part of winter life. Outside, the town feels withdrawn. Streets remain empty for long hours. Snow and frost reflect faint light, creating a pale glow that feels distant rather than helpful. Night seems endless, but it is familiar. Through repetition, winter nights lose their sharpness. What once felt oppressive becomes predictable. People learn how to move through darkness without resisting it. Acceptance replaces tension. As winter continues, the town holds itself together through habit, closeness, and quiet patience. Darkness is no longer something to manage. It is something to inhabit. We will rest here within this long seasonal night. We will begin to follow the subtle emotional shifts that occurred as winter slowly loosened its grip, and light began, almost unnoticed, to return as winter slowly reaches its deepest point. Something subtle begins to change. It is not announced. No one marks it clearly. Yet, beneath the long nights, there is a quiet sense that time is turning. The darkness still arrives early, and it still stays late, but it no longer feels endless. People do not speak of this directly. They feel it instead. In these final weeks of deep winter, routines become especially important. Habit carries people forward when motivation feels thin. Evenings follow the same gentle pattern. Fires are lit. Food is shared. Small tasks fill the hours between sunset and sleep. Familiarity becomes a form of comfort, more reliable than hope. The town remains mostly inward-facing after dark. Doors close early. Streets empty quickly. Yet inside homes, there is a faint softening of mood. Conversations linger a little longer. Silence feels less heavy. The night, though still long, feels known. It has revealed its shape, and people have learned how to live within it. Light remains scarce, but it is used carefully and confidently. Candles are placed where they will matter most. Faces gather around the hearth. Shadows move gently across walls. These scenes repeat night after night, building a sense of continuity. The sameness is not dull. It is stabilizing. Emotionally, People begin to lean forward again, just slightly. Not toward excitement, but toward expectation. Winter has always passed before. This knowledge lives quietly in memory. No one rushes it. No one demands change. Patience is the skill winter teaches best. Children sense the shift before they understand it. They grow a little more restless. Questions appear. When will it be warmer? When will we go outside longer? These questions are answered calmly, without promises. Adults know better than to challenge the season. They trust time instead. Illness and hardship still exist, but they no longer dominate thought. Attention widens. Plans for spring begin to form quietly, repairs to be made, fields to be prepared, supplies to be checked. These thoughts are not urgent. They are gentle signs that the future is approaching. Outside, the night remains strong, but its character changes. The cold may still be sharp, but the air feels different. Sounds carry more clearly. Snow begins to melt during the day, then freeze again at night. These small cycles hint at movement beneath. Stillness. Religious observances during this time often reflect waiting and renewal. Evening prayers acknowledge darkness while quietly anticipating light. These rituals give shape to patience. They remind people that endurance has meaning beyond survival. As winter nights slowly shorten, people do not immediately change their behavior. Habits remain cautious. Fires are still watched carefully. Movement after sunset remains limited. Trust in routine lasts longer than the darkness itself. Eventually, without ceremony, evenings grow lighter. Sunset shifts later. The town notices, but does not celebrate loudly. Relief comes softly. Winter loosens its hold, not suddenly, but with grace. Here, at the end of part 4. We see how seasons reshape life after sunset, not through drama, but through steady pressure and gradual release. Night expands and contracts, teaching endurance in winter and ease in return. We will move away from the rhythm of seasons and turn instead to spaces. We will explore how different places within the town, homes, streets, taverns, and sacred buildings, each experienced night in their own quiet and distinctive way. We move gently away from time and season and begin to explore space. The town at night is not a single experience shared equally by all. After sunset, each place holds darkness differently. Walls, ceilings, and thresholds shape how night is. Felt, heard, and endured. To understand life after sunset, we must move slowly from one space to another, listening to how each one responds to the absence of light. Let us begin inside the home, where night is most familiar. After sunset, the medieval home becomes smaller. Not physically smaller, but functionally so. Only a few rooms remain in use. Others fade into darkness and are simply not entered again until morning. Space contracts around warmth and light. Life gathers close to the hearth. The hearth is the center of the nighttime home. It offers heat, light, and reassurance. Faces turn toward it without thinking. Conversations orient themselves around its glow. Even silence feels anchored by it. When the fire burns low, people instinctively lean closer, not only to stay warm, but to remain connected to what little light remains. Furniture near the hearth is used more often after sunset. Benches, stools, and low tables bear the marks of this repeated gathering. Wood is polished smooth by generations of evening use. These objects feel dependable in the dark. People know their shape by touch. A hand finds the edge of a bench without looking. A cup is lifted carefully, guided by memory. Beyond this circle of light, the rest of the home becomes vague and distant. Corners soften. Doorways lose definition. Upper spaces, lofts, and storage areas retreat into shadow. These spaces are not feared. They are simply postponed. Night teaches people which parts of the home are necessary and which can wait. Sleeping. Areas are arranged with this in mind. Beds a place where warmth can reach them, or where bodies can share heat. Privacy matters less than comfort. Night encourages closeness, both physical and emotional. Even disagreements tend to quiet themselves in these spaces. Darkness does. Not invite resolution. It invites rest now. Let us step just outside the door. The threshold between home and street feels more significant after sunset. During the day, it is crossed without thought. At night, it marks a transition between safety and uncertainty. Doors are closed deliberately. Bars are set carefully. The sound of wood settling into place carries meaning. It says the home has withdrawn from the world for a while. Streets at night feel longer than they do during the day. Narrow lanes stretch into darkness. Walls seem taller. Familiar routes become abstract. Movement here is cautious and purposeful. People who step outside do so with reason. They walk close to walls. They avoid the center of the street where footing is less certain. Light in these spaces is rare and mobile. A lantern passing by briefly reveals textures. Stone glistens. Water pools reflect small flickers. Then the light moves on, and the street returns to shadow. These brief illuminations make darkness feel alive, but not threatening. Simply active. Public spaces behave differently. A square that feels open and welcoming during the day becomes hollow at night. Without crowds, its size feels exaggerated. Sounds echo more. A single footstep carries farther than expected. Because of this, people avoid lingering in open spaces after sunset. Enclosure feels safer. Taverns and inns offer a contrast. Inside, night gathers around shared warmth and subdued noise. These spaces are intentionally shaped to resist darkness. Low ceilings trap heat. Thick walls muffle outside sound. Candles are clustered rather than spread out. The result is a contained, inward-facing atmosphere. Even here, however, night asserts itself. Voices stay low. Movements are slower. Time is watched. No one forgets that darkness waits just beyond the door. As we pause here, moving slowly through these spaces, we begin to see that night does not change the town evenly. It reshapes it selectively. Some places retreat, others concentrate. Each space teaches a different way of being quiet. We will continue our movement through the town after sunset, entering sacred spaces, workspaces, and forgotten corners, and listening to how night settles differently within each one. As we continue our slow movement through the town at night, we arrive at places shaped not by daily comfort, but by purpose and meaning. These spaces, sacred buildings, workshops, and overlooked corners, respond to darkness in ways that reflect how they are used and how they are respected. Sacred spaces hold night differently from homes. A church or chapel after sunset feels larger than it does during the day. Shadows stretch upward along stone walls. The ceiling seems higher. Sound behaves carefully here. Even a quiet step echoes longer than expected. For many townspeople, these spaces are entered at night only for specific reasons: prayer, vigil, or necessity. Inside, light is minimal but intentional. A few candles burn steadily near the altar. Their glow does not chase away darkness. It accepts it. The contrast between light and shadow feels deliberate, almost instructional. It reminds people of stillness, of humility, of time passing beyond human control. Night prayer is slower than prayer during the day. Words are spoken quietly, often whispered. Silence plays a larger role. People do not come seeking answers. They come seeking steadiness. The building itself seems to absorb worry, returning only calm. Workspaces, by contrast, withdraw almost completely after sunset. A blacksmith's forge is cold. A weaver's loom stands still. Tools rest where they were last placed, waiting patiently for morning. These spaces do not invite nighttime use. Darkness makes precision difficult, and mistakes costly. Yet their presence is felt even when inactive. Passing by a closed workshop at night reminds people that labor has boundaries. The day belongs to work. The night belongs to rest. Respecting this division preserves both body and craft. Some workshops are connected directly to homes. In these cases, small tasks may continue after sunset. Sorting materials, preparing tools, but heavy work waits for light. Night encourages preparation, not execution. Now we drift toward the forgotten corners of the town. Storage sheds, alleyways, edges near the walls. These spaces rarely host people after dark. They hold silence without intention. Darkness settles here fully, undisturbed. These corners are not feared, but they are avoided. Not because something is expected to happen, but because nothing needs to. Night teaches efficiency. If a place offers no warmth, no light, and no purpose, it is left alone. The town walls themselves feel different at night. During the day, they represent protection and order. After sunset, they feel like boundaries holding darkness at bay. Guards walk them slowly. Their height blocks wind. Their mass reassures. Beyond the walls, the land disappears. Fields merge into shadow. Paths lose direction. For townspeople, the world ends at the wall during the night. This sense of containment provides psychological comfort. Everything important is inside. Water sources also change character after dark. Wells are approached carefully, if at all. Rivers and streams become unseen hazards. Reflections vanish. Sound replaces sight. People learn to trust familiar noises, the steady flow of water, the echo of footsteps. Throughout the town, movement becomes selective. People choose spaces deliberately, warmth over openness, familiarity over curiosity. Night narrows options, and in doing so, simplifies decision-making. As we rest here among these spaces, we can feel how architecture and darkness work together. Buildings guide behavior. Night reinforces purpose. Each place teaches how it wishes to be used after sunset. We will complete our journey through space by exploring how social class and occupation shaped nighttime experience, revealing that not everyone encountered the dark in quite the same way. As we remain within the town after sunset, one more layer quietly reveals itself. Night does not treat everyone equally, though darkness falls over every roof and street in the same way. It is experienced differently depending on one's place within the town. Social position, occupation, and obligation shape how the night is felt and how much rest it allows. For wealthier households, night brings comfort more reliably. Their homes are larger, with thicker walls that hold warmth longer. Fires burn a little brighter. Candles last a little longer. Space allows for separation when needed, though closeness still remains common. Night here is controlled, softened by resources. These households often retire earlier, not from exhaustion, but from custom. There is little reason to extend the evening. Their work does not demand pre-dawn effort. Rest preserves health, and health preserves status. Sleep is seen as sensible rather than indulgent. For working families, night feels more practical. Rest is earned through labor. Bodies carry the weight of the day into sleep. Homes are smaller. Warmth is shared. Light is minimal. Yet there is also a certain ease here. The night brings relief from effort. Muscles relax. Hands finally rest. Craft workers experience night as a pause rather than an end. Their tools wait patiently for morning. The mind remains lightly engaged, reviewing tasks, anticipating problems. Night becomes a bridge between repetition and renewal. For servants and apprentices, night can feel shorter. Duties extend later and begin earlier. They move quietly through other people's spaces after dark, careful not to disturb. Sleep may come in shorter stretches. Still, night offers them the same gift it offers everyone else. Temporary stillness. Those whose roles require vigilance experience night differently again. Guards, watchmen, and gatekeepers do not retreat fully from the dark. They inhabit it. Their routines are steady, repetitive, designed to reduce surprise. The night is familiar to them, not mysterious. They learn its patterns, which sounds belong, which movements are ordinary. Their presence reassures the town, even if unseen. While others rest, these individuals maintain continuity. They are not celebrated. They are simply relied upon at the edges of society. Night can feel less forgiving. The poor, the sick, the displaced. Their shelter may be uncertain. Warmth harder to maintain. Darkness presses closer when resources are few. For them, night is endured rather than welcomed. Yet even here, the town provides some structure. Church doors may open briefly. Shared fires exist. Community habits soften hardship where they can. Night exposes inequality, but it also reveals quiet forms of care. Children experience night differently from adults. Darkness feels larger, sounds feel closer, yet they are protected by routine and presence. Being told when to sleep, where to lie, whose hand to hold. These patterns teach safety without explanation. Older people often experience night more lightly. Sleep is shallower. Waking is common, yet this wakefulness is calm. They listen to the town breathing. They feel time passing gently. Night becomes familiar company. Across all these lives, one truth remains constant. Night is not empty. It is full of subtle variation. It asks different things from different people, but it asks something of everyone. Stillness, patience, awareness, as we conclude this exploration of space and social experience, we see that medieval night was not a single shared silence. It was layered, personal, shaped by circumstance as much as by darkness itself. In the next part, we will turn our attention to sound. We will listen closely to what could be heard after sunset, and how sound replaced sight as the primary way people understood their town in the dark.